After 200 job interviews or job applications last year, an awful lot of job interviews, it became really weird for me over the last few weeks where I've noticed a lot of the ideas that I've been pitching in those interviews have suddenly come into play from the companies that didn't give me the job. And it makes me wonder, somebody been stealing my ideas? So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, it's actually a surprisingly common thing. It used to be that people, when you went in for an interview, you might have to do like a sample version of what the job is so that you could prove to them that you know what you're doing. These days, as things have changed a little bit thanks to lockdowns, you now have to basically pitch ideas for some interviews to prove that you know what the hell's going on. And it's usually a really innocuous question along the lines of, what do you think we should do differently? Not every time that you answer that question, though, are you going to get people who are being honest with what they're doing with that response. And that's where it gets tricky. So one of the things that I've noticed with the interviews that I've been doing, don't mind me, I'm going to do a little gardening on doing this, simply knocked over my R2, is that they take a lot of notes, which makes sense because you're in the middle of a job interview. You want people to take notes. But at the same time, a few weeks later, these notes that they've taken end up being on their website or on their social media feeds. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not claiming I'm the only person to come up with certain ideas, but I've noticed that there has definitely been a link between the jobs I've interviewed for and some of the things that they do next. Now, let me give you some examples without naming names because I can't do that. But there was one company where they asked what they could do better on TikTok to try and reach a younger audience. And I gave them examples of some of their staff that were actually doing really well in that field. Next thing you know, I'm starting to get things come through in my TikTok feed for these particular people that are working in this organization, all modeled around what that first TikToker did and what he did really well. And I thought, that's kind of strange. At the time of the interview, she actually turned around and said, I don't want you to think you're stealing ideas. We were planning on doing some of the stuff that you just mentioned beforehand. I thought, that's okay, I guess, if you're already planning it and I'm on the same page, it's got to be a good thing, doesn't it? Another one that I did wanted to know about how to increase their SEO, which is your search engine optimization, how to do better on something like Google. So I told them about blogs, which is actually a pretty common thing. They've been around for a few years now, and it's a great way of building how Google finds your website and how you find the website with stuff that people are going to be relating to what they're looking for in your website. It sounds complicated, but it's not. There was even discussions there about doing some contract work with them after not getting the job to do some blog writing for them. Didn't happen, but now their website has regular blog updates. That kind of annoyed the hell out of me, to be honest. And then there's been questions about how to handle things like Instagram and Facebook, and I've given examples of what they could do and other businesses like them do to make their reach a bit further so that people can find what's going on, connect with them. Because the more you connect, the better that you do with these kind of things. On at least 2 separate occasions, they've rolled out almost word for word the examples and suggestions that I made for them. And it's starting to get slightly annoying. But the worst part is, there's literally nothing that you can do about it. Because what you're doing in an interview is essentially pitching yourself. Sometimes your ideas come with that, but there's no way to prove that the ideas that you're pitching aren't someone else's ideas at the same time, because obviously multiple ideas happen all the time. Best example of that, Armageddon and Deep Impact. Same sort of movies, same kind of time frame that they were released, same dual ideas being developed at the same time. It's no different when it comes to job interviews, and people are on the same page or good at what they do, they're going to suggest a lot of the same things, which is really frustrating. Almost as frustrating, I should point out, as having all of your electronic gear going flat all of a sudden and needing to be recharged. So you connect to your phone and then you find out your phone's got no memory left. So you cut what you're doing halfway through, which is what actually happened today when I was trying to record everything, which is why I'm bouncing around locations, but you did get a tour of my garden. So getting back to what I was saying, it's not uncommon to have things be stolen from you during job interviews when you pitch ideas, and it's really hard to put yourself in a situation where you don't give across those ideas because you have to make a really good impression. You need to be able to showcase that you've got an insight into how a business operates, that you can see what the end goal is and how to achieve those end goals for them, what you can do to add to that mix to achieve things for them. So it's a really fine, precarious line as you sit there going, how much do I give? And I'll be honest,
I don't know the answer. I'm obviously still trying to wrap my head around it, and I think it's probably a bit different for each place that you interview for. But it's still really frustrating. It's really frustrating for me to sit there going, why is this happening? Because I suggested this and you didn't give me the job, but you're doing it anyway. So maybe I'm overpricing myself, but the pay rates are things that I've agreed on before I even do the interviews. It's one of the reasons I don't like job ads that don't tell you what the pay range is, because perhaps you're going in there with this great idea and you know how much you're worth, and it's more than they're willing to pay, so they get somebody cheaper to do a okay job of it. Kind of sucks, but there's not much you can do about it, and I think that's the frustrating part, that you can't do anything about it. But I'm going to keep an eye out. I'm going to go back and do some checking on the other places that I've interviewed for, because I've done an awful lot of interviews. I'm very curious to find out how many of those places have integrated similar ideas to what it was that I mentioned during job interviews. I'm very curious to see what's going on, but also, see if there's something that perhaps I can pick up from whoever it was that did get the job, because that's not a bad thing either. So I'll keep you informed on how that goes, and I hope you had a wonderful tour of my garden. It's a beautiful day today out there. Sun shining, blind spots everywhere. Glad I was wearing my sunglasses. Also, this summer, remember to wear sunscreen. Just going to chuck that out there. Right, I think that's me done for this episode. Who knows? We'll see. Ka kite anō, I will catch you next time.